Hi you guys, welcome back to my channel. I literally just had my phone and tried to do stories on my Instagram to share what I'm about to share, and it was just too long that I probably would have had to do an Instagram stories live, but I'm so nervous to share this that I don't think I was ready to do a live story about what I'm about to share with you. For those of you who are watching, this video might be really old or might be really new, but the week of this that I filmed this right now, I kind of went a little MIA on Instagram, especially on stories, because we had a little bit of a traumatic event in our home and we ended up in the ER. So Callie has breath holding spells. Callie is our daughter. She is 2.5 years old. And when she was 7 months old, I don't think the first or second one I knew exactly what it was. But looking back 100%, a few months later, I figured it out, that she has something called breath holding spells. And I have never shared this. For those of you who follow us over on our family channel, I have never said this. I have never mentioned it. I have only talked to very close friends and family about it, and some friends where their kids have the same thing. Partly because I wasn't ready or didn't want a bunch of commentary when people might not understand or know what breath holding spells are, and they can be extremely scary. Like, I have butterflies right now sharing this story. But they can be extremely scary and understandable. Yes, sweetie. So she's fine now. Let's get to the end before we start at the beginning. Callie is fine. She is playing and happy. But a lot of people, I would assume, or maybe this was just my nerves, I did not want to share it on the vlog because I didn't want to get a bunch of commentary of how dare you not take her to the hospital, she passed out. And so again, when you don't know what they are and they're very scary, you can definitely have a lot of ideas. To lead up to how we got to the ER this weekend, breath holding spells are a reflex. You can't help it, this little one. It can be triggered by anger, fear, pain. In the beginning, it would be, she would take like a little tumble. She would be crawling or even toddling around and like fall and bonk, and it was never an injury that was like, she hurt herself, but it was something that would startle her, and she wouldn't even necessarily get to the point of crying. She would kind of cry and then just open her mouth, be yelling, and just hold her breath until she would snap out of it, pass out, and then wake back up. A couple of times she would pass out, she would seize. It's not technically a seizure, but it looks exactly like a seizure. And then she would breathe while she was passed out. Usually eyes open. That's a little scary to look at, but eyes open, completely passed out, but she'd be breathing, and then she would snap to, and then she would come out of it. So those were the normal. I talked to so many doctors. Anytime I got in front of a new doctor, I would bring it up again and ask if they had any opinions, any ideas. But she actually didn't have bad breath holding spells. Well, the severity of it may be because she would have the seizure-like activity often, that sometimes, come on? Yeah. Okay, in a minute. Maybe the severity of hers seemed a little bit intense because she would have the seizure-like activity, but she didn't do them as often. So I have friends where their kids would do them a couple times a week, and she would do them maybe once or twice a month was kind of a lot, and then maybe she would go a couple months without it. And then she was going a big long stretch where she didn't have them. And so I thought, oh my goodness, yay, amazing, we are over this, we are through this. And then she changed her mind. But it's very normal. That I just figured out this week is when they're 2, that's when it switches from like fear-based or pain-based to anger. And so a temper tantrum can turn into a breath holding spell. And so over the last 3 months, I just noticed she was having them a lot more. She only passed out maybe like once, maybe twice. Because normally I would try to get her to respond back quickly. So I would blow in her face. Sometimes I would get really close, like to her, and like really blow in her face, trying to spark kind of a reaction. I'm sharing this video because I am hoping that this is going to help and reach any mamas who have a kid with breath holding spells, because as of this weekend, I can tell you that it is terrifying. And it didn't scare me before because I have the medical knowledge of being a NICU nurse. But if it scared me, that knows what she's doing-ish, I can't imagine for a mama. Hey. Let's have a better attitude. Oh, it was on your foot? Yeah. Okay, just walk over it. So I just can't imagine a mama who hasn't done CPR classes or anything like that, and all of a sudden find out that your kid has breath holding spells. It can be terrifying, traumatizing. So that is why I am sharing this. Don't throw Daddy's shoes. And I'm trying to film this in the middle of the day, in the middle of chaos. We were trying to get out the door, but it is really on my heart to share this, and so I just want to tell you. So she turned 2. They have switched to temper tantrums, which, I mean, normal. I don't care if my kid gets upset and has a temper tantrum, but to the point where she would cry and hold her breath and pass out. And when they pass out, some just pass out and then they spark right back awake, and that's usually what she would do. She would often turn blue, which again is a very scary thing to watch. So let's just tell you what happened this traumatic weekend. She didn't nap because we got to go play with friends, and we got home later than we normally would. So it was very late, and she was tired. And the temper tantrum, it doesn't really matter what it was over, but I would be curious. It was over wanting a different set of pajamas. So again, it can show you that it's not avoidable. Just things happen and your kid gets upset, and that part's fine, but this was a really hard week for me, so I'm trying not to relive it. I'm trying to just tell you the facts and not try to think about it, because literally I spent days just like seeing it over and over in my head, and it was just really awful. So she cried, and so they usually will arch back and their eyes kind of go, and they just start turning blue. So I would lay her down flat. And oh, by the way, if you get to, after I tell this story, I'm going to tell you the tips and tricks I've learned now. And we have had 1 breath holding spell since then, and she did not pass out. So I'm going to tell you those tips in just a second. So literally it was textbook. I should actually pull up what textbook is so I can tell you exactly. So they normally begin between 6 to 18 months, and she started at 7, nice, bright and early. And it's uncommon to have them start after the age of 2. This is from the Children Neurology Foundation.org. So I'm just giving you verbatim what they're sharing. So it can be triggered by fear, pain, or anger, which we just talked about.
Mom, we went toothpaste.
No, we're gonna do toothpaste later.
I brushed my teeth yet.
You did brush your teeth this morning already. We'll brush them again soon, okay? With a smile and without a pout. Yes, Mama, good. So breath holding spells, they'll cry, they'll exhale, and they won't inhale, so they will stop breathing. So the cyanotic, like blue around the lips, are the most common breath holding spell. So they last about 15 seconds. I will tell you that's not always the case. Sometimes they are extremely long, hence you call 911. They stop breathing, they rapidly turn blue, they'll go limp. They stiffen, they arch their back. I'm literally reading you this verbatim because this is exactly what happened. They usually recover in less than a minute. This was not the case for us this last time. Sorry, it's getting a little dark in here. And if you can hear the trash truck, that is what that big noise is. They may gasp and then return to regular breathing, and then they're super tired afterwards. So with the less common type, the pallid versus the cyanotic, that's when they will stiffen and have the jerky motions, and it's just a reflex anoxic seizure. So it's not actually a real seizure where it's like the trigger from the brain, it's like your body's reaction response to not having oxygen. I love you. So it says majority of children have 1 to 6 episodes per week. So that was not the case for us, but when we did have them, we had them hard. Can you go get dressed, please? Go pick out your clothes and go get dressed. Yes, yes, Mama. With a smile, without a pout. Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll try to say this a little faster. So for her, that's what happened. She cried, arched back, became very stiff, laid back, seizure-like activity. The seizure was only for about 10 seconds, and then she was passed out. And this time, normally she would be passed out, but she would be breathing. This time, she was not breathing at all. What felt like an eternity. Looking back on it, I think it was just over a minute. If I think about it, it could have been like 1.5 minutes, maybe up to 2 minutes. It was long, it was very long. So in the situation, I went straight to resuscitation mindset, medical. Looking back, I wish I would have done it different, but this was the reflex that I had in the moment. So I first started breathing for her because she was not breathing, not a movement, nothing. Eyes open, completely passed out, as white as snow, blue. It was so traumatizing, I can't even explain it. But what I'm wanting to share in this video, and what I wish I would have known beforehand, is that it's going to be okay. They're going to be okay. The chances of a child dying from a breath holding spell is almost 0. The only time that from that same website, they said that the only time that it would cause an issue and they could actually, you would lose them, is if they already had an underlying heart or lung issue. In the moment, it felt like she had something underlying that was, I literally can't explain it. I literally felt like I was losing my child. I was screaming at Philip to get them here. He was already on the phone with 911. I wanted them there as soon as possible. So I'm doing breaths for her. For me, I felt for a pulse, and I could not find it, and I am very good at finding pulses. It was probably weak, it was probably thready, it was probably still there. What I wish I would have done different is put my ear to their chest. In the hospital, I would have a stethoscope, and that's what I would be doing. In the moment, in the chaos, I didn't think forward, and I did not put my ear on her chest to hear if I could hear a heartbeat, if there was a pulse there. I am sure there was. It didn't feel like there was, and it could have been. She could have been so clamped down that it would have either been super low or super thready. And we did chest compressions. This is the part that I don't want to share because I don't want to feel, I already feel internally like that I felt like I did something wrong. I talked to the doctor at the ER, and he said, you didn't do anything, you didn't hurt her, it wasn't harmful to do that. But she probably would have come out of it. If I would have listened and I would have heard a heartbeat, I would have just breathed for her. Still probably called 911 because she was down for a long time. What felt like an eternity. A long time is minutes, but it was over a minute, and it was a very long time. I could have done the rescue breaths. That would have been no problem. You blow air, and yeah, maybe they get a little air in their tummy and they might have gas the next day, but there is no harm in doing that. The compressions, she's little, she's pliable. You don't really break ribs in the kids, but I am completely traumatized for the next few days that I did CPR on my baby. I don't even know if I'm gonna keep this in the video. I might even cut this out because I am so just... Kinsley, don't yell, please. I'm just so ashamed that it got to that point. So what did I learn since Sunday of what to do different? You're so sweet. You're so sweet. Thank you. Thank you. You're so sweet. Thank you. So I have learned this week things that have helped my friends and their kids with breath holding spells. So one is to put them on iron. I actually thought that like in the last couple weeks, because Callie started having them more, I was thinking of already buying her iron. I just hadn't done it yet. So putting your kids on iron, it's just supposed to help them, I think, recover faster. It doesn't change them, it doesn't take them away. It just, I think, beefs up their red blood cells enough that they can recover from the breath holding a little bit faster. Second is to lay them flat as fast as possible. And so my girlfriend said her technique was to actually pick them up, cradle them, and tilt them a little bit so their head was more down than their body. Not flip them upside down, but just enough where like the blood flow was going towards the head. So in the midst of laying them back, getting them so their blood flow is going to their head, is to ask them a question. And this is the key trick that I wish I would have known from the beginning. So it kind of apparently is supposed to trigger their mind to switch from I'm angry to I'm supposed to answer this question. And the moment they answer that question, they have to say those words and the breath holding spell is supposed to stop. Literally 2 days after we were in the ER, this happened. She held her breath. It was at my friend's house, who her son has the breath holding spells, and she did the flip and asked her a question and she did not pass out. So if any of you guys have kids or family members with breath holding spells and you have any tips or tricks for the rest of us that we can all read, please leave them in the comments below. If you are a mama of a kid who has breath holding spells, I want to tell you, you're amazing, you are awesome. In the moment, you are doing the best you can. I know it's scary. The best thing to do is breathe and stay calm. Per all the resources I have read, the biggest thing is also to not give in to the tantrums, because then the breath holding spells become a learned behavior. So we do not give in to whatever Callie is crying for when she has her breath holding spell, but it's just a matter of tips and tricks to try to avoid them altogether. So the iron, the laying them flat, ask them a question before they get to the point of no return. Those are my tips. I really hope that they help you. I really hope that it keeps your kid from passing out and we can get through these. I think 7 years is usually when they should be grown out of them, by 7. And hopefully we can get through all of these years together, happy, healthy, and in one piece, and mamas with a sane mind. So I hope you guys enjoyed this super informal video. It was just super on my heart. I just needed to share it. It's been a really long week. I haven't picked up the camera all week. I have just been enjoying my family. It was just a time that really shook us, that we just needed to be together as a family, and that's what we did. So if there's any other videos that you guys would like to see over here on this channel, just leave them in the comments below and I would love to make them for you. And I hope this was helpful. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.